Okay, we're all set.
All right, great. We will call the January 11th Economic Development Incentive Committee meeting to order. Everybody should have had their packet, which would include the minutes from November 9th, if you want to review those, and if there are any questions, comments, we'll address those at this time, and if not, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second?
All right, all the motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any discussion on those? All right, we will go into the election of officers, which I don't know what the current slate is. Do you, Krista, know what the current slate is?
So it's just that Mr. Nichols currently is the chairman, and then you are the vice chairman, so that's all we
Okay.
need to make nominations for this time.
Okay. Well, I would nominate Mr. Nichols to be the chairman again for next year, and would open the floor for any volunteers to be vice chairman.
So, may I ask the role, responsibilities of the chairman, vice chair, what does that entail? What's the qualifications?
Sure.
For the chairman and vice chair?
So I will say as vice chairman, all you do is, your role and responsibility is to run the meetings in the absence of the chair.
Okay.
All the votes are one apiece, so, there's no added power, added authority. I don't know if Al does anything outside of the meetings as chairman, or if you guys contact him. I assume you don't, but
No, you're right. It's just running the meetings. Other than that,
the pay is the same.
yeah, the pay is the same.
Yeah. Which is zero, I'll say for the record.
So there's no additional time commitment outside of just these meetings?
No.
No.
Marcus, is that an indication of your interest in one of the positions?
Possibly.
Well, I will nominate Al as the chairman and Jamarcus as the vice chairman for the 2022 calendar year. If anybody would want to second that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any objections to that, Jamarcus?
I'm okay with
Congratulations. Big honor. All right, so we will take a vote on, chairman as Mr. Nichols and vice chairman as Mr. Hampton. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so that motion will carry. So we will go into program financial update.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, or soon-to-be prior Vice Chairman. Each of you should have received the financial summary of the program included in your packets. You'll see that last year we approved 16 new Economic Development Fund grants, and I just want to take a minute to thank each of the committee members for your work on the committee last year. I'm real proud of this list of grant recipients. These are really great projects from large to small, downtown, in the neighborhoods, really good variety of projects. And I think it shows that we are continuing to attract new investment to the city to support small businesses, large projects, and work across the board to get things done here in Sandusky. You'll see that we had total funding available last year of $652,000, and we have grants approved in the amount of just over $500,000, which leaves us with a balance of $148,000 for the program. Before you today are 4 requests that total recommendations of $95,000 of new grants, which would leave us, if all 4 were to be approved, leave us about $50,000 in funding. And I do anticipate a new allocation coming into the program in 2022. I'm working with City Manager Eric Woobser on what that's going to look like. There are some new funding sources available to the city, and we're going to be taking a look at this program along with some of our other initiatives, making sure that we have funding available for neighborhood projects as well as projects in the downtown and Cleveland Road corridor. So look forward to more information on what the program's going to look like later this year. But for now, we do have continued capacity to do more projects, and look forward to presenting those to you here momentarily.
All right, great. Any questions on project funding and the update as of the handout here?
Jonathan, when do you expect you'll find out about the 2022 allocation?
I'm going to have a update for you at our next committee meeting, which I think will be, a lot of those details will be available at that time.
Are you going to accept applications in the interim?
Yes, I'm continuing to accept applications, but, and I expect that we'll continue to be able to assist projects both in the downtown and in the neighborhoods. There may be a difference in how we review those. We may have separate programs or separate pots of money. Those details are all still being worked out, but in the meantime, yes, I'm still encouraging businesses, applicants to submit applications.
Okay.
Has
And
the-
we should too?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And the 2022 budget for the city's already been approved, or is that?
Yes, I believe that was approved at City Commission meeting last night.
Yep,
Last
second
night,
reading.
Okay.
Just to clarify, this is, the $50,000 remaining is just what's left from 2021. That doesn't include any new allocation for 2022.
That's correct.
What, 148 going into today?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
You said the total was 95,000 for the new requests?
Correct. The four requests that are on the agenda have recommendations totaling $95,000.
And those four requests for today are under bullet point number 5, right?
Yes.
All right, we'll go on to that then. Okay, any other questions on the program financial update? Okay, hearing none, we will go into the applications and start with True Grit. In my question about that, we approved something in November for him. Is this separate, or is it?
So the first two applications that are on the agenda under bullet point number 5 were presented at the last meeting. However, we had only 4 members in attendance, or I'm sorry, we had only 3 members in attendance, and in the first 2 instances, one of those 3 members had to abstain. So in discussing the requests and the voting with the law director after the meeting, it was determined that we did not meet the necessary threshold to proceed with those 2 applications, since even though we had a majority of members present, we did not have a majority of members on the committee vote in favor of those or in the affirmative. And Brendan, if you have anything to add, I'm not sure if I'm explaining that as clearly as possible.
No, just so the way we've interpreted voting, whether or not it's not the majority of quorum, it's the majority of the board, when absent the ordinance authorizing the board saying otherwise, based on our interpretation of the city's charter.
So I think that's something I'd like to dive into later this year with Brendan's assistance, just because it is a small committee, and I think it is very important that we move these applications through on a timely basis. So hopefully we can have more information for the committee on how to prevent this from happening going forward. But at least for now, I'd like to represent True Grit Fitness LLC to the committee. This is the same project that was presented at the November meeting.
So, and I have a conflict with that one, so that puts us in the same spot? Or-
Not if the remaining 3 members approve it.
Okay, all right,
So
great.
I'm not voting.
Right, but there are still 3 members.
You're voting now?
Correct. Yes.
Whose spot are you? Or you were voting?
I believe in the past, the development director had appointed a designee, but as of the last meeting, I've not been doing that.
Got it.
So just for the first one, 3 of you guys can vote, right? And then for the second one, it'd just be the 2 of you?
For the second one, I'm actually going to move that we table it. My office unfortunately didn't get a chance to, this is me, I was on vacation. I wanted to take a second look just to make sure that we're in full compliance with any legal requirements of a board member having business before a board.
Okay, because I would say too that if upon completion of that review, we have a special meeting just to
Sure.
vote on that one, because I think there's time deadlines and things like that, so.
Sure.
Okay, so let's go back to the top, and we'll take True Grit, and Jonathan, you can.
So Dustin Smith is the owner of True Grit. He is a Sandusky resident, has a really impressive background in the health and wellness field, including numerous certifications. He's currently assisting clients at the Tim Dorsey Fitness location, and he has the opportunity to lease the vacant retail space immediately adjacent to Tim Dorsey Fitness. That space does need some upgrades. Dustin has put together a budget of just over $12,000 for this project. This will give him a private space in order to assist clients with his wellness practice. I'm recommending a grant in the amount of $5,000 to assist this project and reactivate this vacant space and help this small business owner continue to grow his practice here in the city of Sandusky.
Okay, any questions on that, on the True Grit application?
My only question was, I just wanted to understand, I feel like a few of them are listed, some of the proposals were listed to Tim Dorsey Fitness, which I know is one of his references and is where the person operates out of now. I just wondered, this is all going to be going to WellFit RX True Grit?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Early on, there was some contemplation of True Grit being a subtenant or
Oh, okay.
subleasing the new space from Tim Dorsey, but it's since been determined that True Grit will hold its own lease with the property owner. Obviously, the 2 companies work together, but in this case, True Grit will be the tenant and our grant will be to True Grit, and they will be the ones contracting with different contractors for the tenant improvements.
Okay.
So is this like a one-on-one, like a personal training type of business or service that Dustin offers?
Yes, personal training, heavy focus on nutrition, other wellness in line with his certifications. I know Dustin also specializes in different ways of healing back pain and preventing back injuries. That's a specialty of his.
So this gives him an opportunity to really have his own space to operate within.
Correct.
essentially.
While still having access to the workout facility there at Tim Dorsey's. The spaces will have a connection, an interior doorway.
Sure.
But this gives Dustin his own private space to continue to grow out of.
Gotcha. And so my follow-up question would be, this is a 12-month lease? I don't know if it's specified. So the $5,000 will go towards the lease, which is
Actually, the $5,000 is going to be directed toward capital improvements and capital investments, so primarily leasehold improvements. The company's going to be responsible for upgrades to the flooring, doors, electrical, and ceiling. They also have about $3,500 of equipment purchases budgeted. So all improvement and equipment costs, our funds won't go towards actual lease payments.
Okay, so more so the money will go towards the equipment, acquisition of equipment and those type of things, not necessarily the actual cost of leasing the place out.
Correct.
Understood. Thank you.
Okay, I am True Grit Fitness's lawyer, so I will abstain from voting. That being said, I would entertain any motions regarding the application.
I move that we approve the application as recommended for the $5,000.
All right, we have a motion and a second,
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving True Grit's application, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign, and I will abstain. So approval is granted, and we will go to Hampton Enterprises.
I would move that we table this until the next meeting. Again, I apologize, this is on me. I didn't get enough time since I took a holiday break to adequately review. Just want to make sure that we were fully compliant with any regulations of a board member applying for this. So I would make that motion.
I'll second, and I'll say that if all the board members could be on the lookout for an invitation, perhaps for a special meeting, so that, because we may want to bring the board together sooner than we typically would, just in the matter of timeliness. But with that said, I'll second the motion and be looking forward to working with the law director and the applicant to continue to coordinate on this exciting project.
Okay, any other discussion on that? Hearing none, I don't know if we need a motion on that or.
Oh, I did make a motion. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And, okay, so then we will go to Tambo Entertainment.
Tambo Entertainment is an exciting project that is being initiated primarily by members of the Tamburino family. They've got longtime ties to the city of Sandusky, but also the members of their team have some really great experience in the entertainment industry from throughout the state, and they are now focusing their attention here in Sandusky. They've leased 6,500 square feet of commercial space in the old E&K Winery building at 220 East Water Street, essentially the entire first floor of that building. Many of you are probably familiar with the building. It's been vacant for what I understand is over 15 years now, but they are in the process of a major renovation and are looking to reactivate that space by starting a new entertainment venue named Clubhouse Number 3. Clubhouse Number 3 is going to feature 4 golf and multi-sport simulators. It's going to have a full bar, indoor entertainment. In order to do this, the space requires extensive renovations, including the construction of a new entranceway, which has been approved by the Landmarks Commission, along with their signage, a new bar, a new prep room, renovated restrooms, and all new mechanicals, not to mention the simulators and other equipment purchases for the venue. The total project costs for this project is $693,000. That does include about $78,000 of inventory and initial operating capital. So in formulating my recommendation for a grant amount, I looked really just at the fixed assets, equipment, and related soft costs associated with the project, which total roughly $600,000. So in keeping with our traditional grant amount of 10% of large projects, that brings us to a recommended Economic Development Fund grant of $60,000. In summary, this is a really exciting project. The team is underway with the construction. They anticipate being open or hope to be open by March of this year. At this level, we will need city commission approval, but at this time, I'd like to ask for the support of the committee, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do you know who owns that building?
Yes, the building is owned by Mr. and Mrs. Fike.
Like,
Obviously through, I think, a real estate holding company.
It's a good project. It's going to bring people downtown. I've seen they've been active on Facebook, getting people down there already, just to try things out, so.
Am I remembering correctly? Did this go to Landmarker for approval?
Yes.
So we saw those designs with the new doors, and that was what had to get approved, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
They made 2 trips to the Landmarks Commission.
That's right.
And ultimately were approved for the new doorway that has to be installed to meet the fire code requirements, as well as their signage.
It looks nice. That's what I guess was I was asking, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say 2 things. One, we have taken clients through that building several times a year, every year that I've worked here, and it's complicated and sat for a very long time. So I'm excited they have the ambition to take that on. And second, I've also been really impressed with their management team, and the family has a good business track record in the city. So lots of support over here.
It surprises me that they're not buying the real estate, that they're making a big investment and not owning that, but.
I wonder if they optioned. I don't think John wanted to sell the
Yeah.
building. He hasn't before, at least.
And that space really is a perfect fit for what they're looking to do. Once you get in there, you'll see the simulators just fit really nicely with the layout of the first floor. It's a really solid building, which seems to lend itself well for this use. So, I think the location's great. It's an area that could use some more activation, and I think will support the surrounding businesses, including Paddle and Climb and some of the other retail spaces there by attracting people to that part of town.
For sure.
Where's this? Oh, East Water Street, I'm sorry.
It's that old
After-
winery building.
Have to stop by and check it out.
I saw on Facebook between 11 and 3 today, if you want to play golf, you can go in, try out the simulator.
Oh, they have a soft open already?
No, I think he's just looking for people to test the
Oh, okay.
machinery.
That's fast.
All right, any other questions or comments on that? If not, I'd entertain a motion for the request. And I would just make a motion to approve the request.
Second?
All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Any conversation on that? All right, hearing none, we will go to WTF space R, dash R.
All right, WTFR Investments does business as What the Fried Rice. This would be the first possible vendor in the soon-to-get underway Sandusky Food Hall project, which the committee, I'm sure, is aware of. You may recall we've provided economic development funding directly to that project, but this request comes from the vendor who is seeking to open there at the food hall later this year. Lee Yu is the owner of WTFR. He has one location currently in Norwood, Northwood, Ohio, which is outside of Toledo. What the Fried Rice is a fresh, made-to-order Asian cuisine, fast casual restaurant. They've got full-service operation there in Northwood, and they're looking to do a similar operation here in Sandusky in the food hall. I have had a chance to review their lease, which lays out the details of their arrangement with the food hall vendor, and I'm happy to answer your questions on that. I did want to point out, the vendor has indicated a total project cost of $60,000. Included in the construction and fixed asset costs of $30,000. That's comprised of two components. Their initial license fee to the food hall company of $15,000, and then their security deposit for the equipment that they'll be using from the food hall vendor, or the food hall developer, in the amount of $15,000. So I did want to point out that of the $60,000, 15 of that is technically a security deposit, which might impact where we want to be in terms of our grant amount. And I'm open to feedback from the committee on that. The vendor has provided sufficient documentation demonstrating their additional funding that will be used in this project. In conclusion, WTFR is a small business looking to come to Sandusky. I think they'll bring a unique type of food and type of cuisine to downtown, and be an important initial committed party towards the food hall project. So I would like to recommend a grant to WTFR in the amount of $10,000. And again, we can discuss that amount further, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions, comments?
So the way the food hall will work is basically, it looks like there's some build out for this particular use, but you rent the equipment and other things from the food hall operator, the food hall owner, developer?
Which
Correct.
is not the developer though, right? The developer is not the food hall operator. Isn't there a third? So there's the developer,
okay.
the California guys, right? And then they're leasing it to an
The operator who's going to operate the food hall.
who's
which-
getting $15,000 in a security deposit. Just to get the facts straight here before I get into it.
Yeah,
And then they lease it to the third party.
correct.
The WTFR.
Correct.
Got it.
That individual stall. Just to make sure everyone's clear, and perhaps to add some comfort, our program does not disperse any funds until the project is completed. And I've made that very clear to this particular vendor that even though they're responsible for paying their initial fees up front, our funds will not be dispersed until the food hall is open and that particular vendor is operating. So I just want to make sure everyone's clear on that.
Where do they get the 20,000 build out, like, cost from? I mean, we know what the 30 is because it's by their lease, 15 and 15. Inventory and operating costs that's not the, but like, what's the extra 20,000 for their build out?
That's going to be small equipment, like rice steamers, kitchen equipment, some signage that they're going to be responsible for. The applicant did include the POS system in that amount, but in reviewing the license agreement, the operator will be providing the POS system. So that number may turn out to be more than what's actually needed for the operator to get up and running. But essentially, that 20,000 was meant to capture all of the additional costs for equipment and operations that, equipment needed for operations that were not going to be provided by the food hall developer.
And they have a $30,000 line of credit from KeyBank.
Correct.
I would say my general comments are I don't like the security deposit side of things, but more so, and I think I've been somewhat consistent in the fact that I am extremely nervous about allocating $10,000 for somebody to do a project that is, they can't do their project until the developer, I think, does his project. I assume they'll be in there at some point. but I don't think we've seen a brick move, unless I've been over there recently, a brick move on the underlying project to develop the space for this project. So my concern would be, and I totally understand what you're saying about we don't give the money until it's done, but we allocate the funds, so we take them out of funds that we can give to people that are already ready to move. So to me, it's almost like, it's really, the application to me isn't ripe, because they need the other project to go before their project can go. Now, I would say, generally speaking, I'm not necessarily opposed to some type of assistance when the time is right, but I don't think the time is right for this one. And I also would say, as you mentioned earlier, the number might be somewhat skewed there.
Yeah, that was a very good point. I wasn't thinking about how far, like the fact that the market itself is not yet completed, so it's not like they get in there in the next 6 months guaranteed
Right.
or anything. But I share more of I'd like to, my concern is more on what they've provided us to justify the $60,000. Like the 30, I think is like by lease, we see that. But like the other 30, I think that's probably right. I do, maybe, but like what's the build out actually entail? Like what do they actually have to do, especially considering that they have to put down a $15,000 security deposit and rent most of their equipment from the food hall? Like how much more work are they really going to need to do? I wouldn't be shocked if it's $20,000 of work, but I also don't have anything showing me what that is. So my kind of inclination is to ask them to reapply in the future. We will be getting more funds. They're not asking for a lot. It's not an obscene request. It's not like they won't have another opportunity, I guess is my point.
Right, and I would feel more comfortable if we were sitting here today and saying we have $500,000 allocated for 2022, you know what I mean? Because then we would know what our pot is. And
Right.
to me, we're like giving 10 grand to a possibility from a possibility when we only have, was it 85 out of $75,000 left going
Right.
until we know more, so.
I don't disagree with the comments, but I would point out that the 10 amount, even all of these outstanding factors of what the real costs are, would be nice to clarify that. I think that's a fair and good question. Remove 15,000, we're still at a smaller percentage than the True Grit Fitness that we approved. I mean, that was 40% of their project costs. I think we're routinely there with small businesses. So I'm not so concerned about the 10. I think the costs are there for the small businesses, and they have been on prior projects. The timing, I think that's a fair concern. It'd be nice to know what the 2022 budget looks like. I will say that it's such a juggling act that they're leading right now at that building. You've got to secure enough tenants to get the construction going. So you're using every sales tool that you have for securing tenants, including this program, frankly. So I want to be supportive of that. My perspective, I'm not a voting member, but would be to ask for clarification and encourage them that we want to see what our 2022 funding is before approving, versus not giving them much feedback on when we would consider it.
Should we be looking at that project too as like all these smaller deals encompassed inside of the building? I guess what I don't want to have is somebody come back and say, you gave them X, and then the 9 people inside, you gave A, B, C, and D, and it totals a really big number, and then it looks like our partnership as the city was a lot into that project, you know? And I don't know if we look at it that way or not, because WTF's success, our success is on their own. It's not going to be whether the developer is success, you know what I mean? So her losses are going to be her losses, but.
Right.
And that's a good point, that I do think we want to be consistent with the vendors as we hear from more of them. And just to be clear, the developer, my understanding is targeting 6 vendors. And what I've discussed with the developer is that, we're happy to talk with those 6 potential vendors. So I don't anticipate our additional involvement to be more than, at most, $60,000.
And I wonder if we almost set up just for conversation here, because it's complete opposite of what I just said, but do you set up a fixed program that says in the event that you're going to this food hall and you have costs that exceed X, which say 20, 30 grand, we would provide a $5,000 development grant because it is a good property that I think the city wants activated, so I can see some incentive there. But again, that's both sides and.
Yeah, I know
Paul,
we didn't want to do that before, but it's almost like as we clarify the timing of things and their timing, that might make more sense when we know what the 2022 budget is, you all could feel comfortable with what that pot is available to the 6 vendors.
And I think those are both reasonable requests and concerns, and I would suggest that I think we'll have that information fairly soon, so perhaps a path forward might be to table this request at this time rather than deny it. That way, if we do have that information at the next meeting, we can revisit this and provide some more feedback or make a determination at that time.
I think that makes sense.
Agreed. And I would also, so I'm not as familiar maybe as everyone in the room with this project. What I remember it as is the old Cardinals and a grocery store. So I don't know, future reference is if there is opportunity for us as committee members, at least those who may not be familiar with some of these projects, to have an opportunity to maybe go visit, these locations possibly, just to kind of get a better understanding of kind of, what's being brought to the table. Just a, suggestion. So, but I agree I definitely think this is something that we should table, especially if the building is not, I guess, finalized yet.
I like that. I like our field trips. I guess if we all go, though, then it's a public meeting.
Oh, I don't know. I'm still learning. I don't know how all
I'm
this
making
works.
a bad lawyer joke.
All right, so we will table that till the next time. So that is all the applications we have today.
Can we put a motion on the record for the tabling of that?
Oh, yeah. So I will make a motion to table that application
I'll second.
in a second. So all those in favor of tabling WTFR application, signal by saying aye.
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 All opposed, signal by saying aye. Okay, so we will table that till the next time. Reminder that the next meeting is March 8th, 2022, unless we have a meeting set up in between if you find something out for that. And we will go before I get to public participation and comments, any new business or old business to discuss that anybody would like to bring up? And I say that because I do. I would say a couple things, and I'm guilty of this too, but when we get the information emailed to us, it's probably helpful if we recognize a conflict to let Kristen know so coming in, 2 people already have conflicts or whatever that may be. I think just that way, I think we don't get here and we're left with 1 voting member or something like that. And then, so that's one comment I have. And the second one is I think it's probably a good idea, just me talking here, is to add more members. I mean, just because I think that when we're responsible for allocating dollars, it's probably better to have 2 city employees vote on it. You know what I mean? In that case, not that that's a slap on the city employees, because it could have been 2 non-city employees or whatever, but just 2 people in general. I think we probably want more, even if we bring Abby back to vote, since she's here all the time. She's pretty smart. So I don't know, those are my thoughts, but any other comments or questions for?
And we can talk more about this as staff at some point, but that's definitely something we can explore. I think we'd have to change the
Yeah.
authorizing ordinance to 7 or something like that, and
Well, I think too, the best advertising for this committee is the people that sit on it,
Yeah.
because they spread the word or whatever. So more to me is a good thing. I mean, within reason, of course, but.
right, have a 15-person committee, we'll have some. I don't actually think we can meet in here right now with 15 people.
So as the incoming vice chair of this committee, is there where do we find like the charter or like the bylaws for this particular committee? I kind of want to get myself acquainted with kind of the rules and regulation of how this committee kind of operates, if that's all right with the rest of the group.
Oh, absolutely. And the ordinance stuff is all online, which we can,
Okay.
but I don't remember where my most recent copy of the EDIC committee documents are, but we'll make sure.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I would agree. I mean, and again, I don't know if there's caps in terms of sizes of, these city-wide committees.
No,
Obviously, we don't want to get, too many folks where it's just, we're unproductive, but, what is that kind of threshold that everyone would be comfortable with? So I'm definitely open to being a part of those conversations as well.
yeah, and I mean, we have committees that are 7, that are 3. I don't know if we have any regularly, I guess our cemetery board is pretty large and our rec board might be pretty large, but usually they're 5 or they're odd number bodies, but how they are picked is just a policy decision by city commission, ultimately. So if city commission decides that, this makes sense, they both set who, any requirements, and then also the size. So, but it's something we can definitely make a recommendation to them, but ultimately it would be up to them if,
Okay.
how they want to see us proceed.
Okay, any other questions, comments? For the good of the order, so go no. So we will open it up to public participation. Any comments from the public?
Mr. Cook, I have a few comments
Sure.
here. I want to do True Grit first. There seems to be a name involved in this. Building owner is Scott Tom. Is that our city employee?
Scott Tom is the name of our building official.
Right, and does he own the building that True Grit wants to go into?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay, so somebody needs to look into that ethics conflict. That's not good.
Does Scott Tom work for the city?
Yes.
What's his last name?
Scott Tom is our building inspector, and he owns those 2 buildings at 301 Market Street.
Is he involved in this programming in any way?
No,
There's no conflict there?
I am not providing that legal opinion.
Pardon?
I did not say that one way or the other.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that for you to check that out before this grant becomes final. And the second one is Hampton Enterprises. In all due respect, sir, I have to bring these things up. I thought he was up for $50,000 at the last meeting. There was a grant for $50,000, and now he wants $20,000 more. Am I reading that right?
So might I make a recommendation? I mean, Ms. Johnson, if you have comments, please lay them all out on this, but this is not public Q&A session.
Okay, all right. The first grant, I think last month it was $50,000, and he's coming now for $20,000 more, so we're double dipping here. And I would like to see other people, if they're lined up, I would like other people to to do some, get on the ground floor with some of these grants. Also, this Hampton Enterprises owns 10 properties, and they're behind in their taxes, from what I'm reading. So, that's a no-no for this grant. And I'm just wondering, too, if they're rental properties, is he up on his registration and code violations? Are there any code violations? Because you can't have a grant if you have all that on you. So that's something you have to look into, and you said you're looking into this.
Am I able to respond?
I don't think you can discuss this because you'd be in conflict, but you can.
Okay.
This is just for public comment session. We're happy to listen to all of Mrs. Johnson's comments to the extent that the committee members want to add their own comments, they're welcome to, but that's up to them.
So I would just say, from a factual standpoint, taxes, everything, registration, everything is paid up to date. And I'm not sure exactly where you're getting your information from, but everything is paid
Well,
up to date.
I know the Warren Street is up to date, but you still have other outstanding properties, and I'm just saying, I'm just throwing this stuff out.
No, that's
They have to
completely
check this stuff
fair.
out.
No, absolutely. And I would hope that everyone on the committee would check, all of these things out before we, award a grant. But I'm telling you, as a response to you bringing up to the committee,
So you don't owe
everything
any
is.
property taxes on any of
No.
your property?
Yeah, no, so everything is paid up to date.
Okay.
Registration.
Your registration?
Yes, ma'am.
No code violations? That's fine.
No code. And then the other thing, the loan amount is not 50,000, it's 20,000. And so I know you mentioned double dipping, so what we're asking or requesting is $20,000 grant, not
Oh,
a
I thought you-
$50,000 grant.
50,000.
No, that's incorrect.
That's incorrect?
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where that was brought up, but that's not.
Okay, so this is a one-time grant
This is
for
a
you?
this is a one-time grant.
Okay,
Yes,
well,
ma'am.
thank you for clarifying
Yep,
that,
no problem.
because-
I never have a problem with clarifying things if especially if it's dealing with me and my business. I definitely want the city to be 100%, in the know exactly what's happening with regards to Hampton Enterprises. So thanks for asking the question.
Okay, so we got that cleared up. My third thing is for the signage and facade work, when this ED committee was started up, they did the signage and facade separate. And now I understand you're throwing it in with the project. So how does the public know if there's signage and facade? Will that be a breakdown in the project cost? Will it show that? Or are you just throwing it all in construction and nobody knows there's signage and facade work being done? How are you going to do that?
I don't know the answer to that.
Do you have any other comments?
Okay, so nobody gets to answer. I'm just commenting and I don't get any feedback, then that's all right. I don't have anything more.
I was just going to say, was that directed still towards Hampton Enterprises, the last question?
Pardon?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, that was a different, okay. I didn't know if you was directing that at your last question, I didn't know if you was directing it at Hampton Enterprises LLC.
For signage and facade?
Yes,
Oh, no.
yes, ma'am.
No,
Okay.
that was separate.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
Okay,
I just-
all right.
This was my third question about the
I got you.
signage and
I see.
facade. And nobody can tell me if, you're going to do that separately. Nobody knows if signage and facade is in with the project. It used to tell. They used to tell that.
Sharon, I can't comment on 2022 plans beyond my purview, but in 2021, we pooled all the money because we didn't know what was going on with COVID allocations. So we wanted to review each project as they came in versus have to move money around different pots and allocations. So we're still reviewing projects from that year.
The development director should know this question, whether or not when he throws it into the project now, instead of doing it separately, how are we going to know if there's signage and facade work being done on that project? That's what I want to know. It should be listed separately when they list their costs, that there's signage and facade and how much. It shouldn't be listed as an all-around construction cost. That's not fair to the public not to know what the breakdown is.
Yeah, the project summaries do go over a breakdown of what the construction costs entail, and then the applicants provide the backup documentation, which also provides a further information on what those capital improvements consist of.
So you'd actually see in the bid what is for facade and what is for
Up
the
front when they
building.
have their costs there, is there signage and facade in with that project? That's all I want to know.
Which project are you referring to?
All of them that come before you. Do I have to ask that separately?
Yeah,
every
and
time?
that is addressed in the, as I mentioned, in the project summaries, in the presentation, in the backup materials, in the applications.
So, but is it addressed up front before they approve of the grant, or is it done on the back side?
The projects are presented with a summary of what's going to happen. The backup documentation that's provided to us is presented, and then it is verified before the funds are dispersed in terms of the work that was performed.
Okay, so when they approve, when the ED approves, they'll be able to see the signage and facade cost breakdown, right?
The bids are in the packet.
Pardon?
The bids are in the packet.
Okay. That's all I want to know. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comments or any other questions, anything else that anyone wants to talk about? If not, I lost my agenda and stack of papers. I think that is ready to adjourn then. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn
So moved.
and a second.
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment can leave. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.